Hello there and welcome back to another video. This week I'm doing something a little bit different in that I didn't really have a reason. Well, I do sort of have reasons, but I didn't really have much of a reason to want to draw this compared to other videos, especially recent videos. I've had like kind of a intense purpose of like I really need to draw this, let's draw this, or it was like an episode of my fandom series, an ongoing thing that was sort of planned out for a while now. This is just like, I felt like drawing a thing, so I drew a thing and I thought, why not record it and share the fact that I drew a thing? So the drawing in question is just a drawing of a YouTuber. His name is James Charles. A couple months ago now, he went to Dragcon in New York and he pulled off like his first ever like full-on drag look. He's a beauty guru, unless if you don't know him, he's a beauty guru, so he typically just does makeup, and when he's done drag in the past, it's just been like a makeup with a wig look, but this sort of was like makeup, wig, corset, pads and all that kind of stuff. And then he went to a convention as a drag queen, and I don't think I've ever talked about drag on this channel. I'm not like terribly into it, but I do watch Drag Race. I have a friend who's like getting really into the drag scene and stuff like that, so it's not like I'm unfamiliar with it, but it's also not like I'm obsessed with it. But yeah, I just thought it might be fun to like give a little bit of a tribute to drag and James Charles. And I know that he went through like this whole thing in the media a couple weeks ago where he opened a store in Birmingham and then he like caused a bunch of traffic jams, and then like a bunch of the mainstream media was like, who's this person? I've never heard of this person before, when he's got like over 10 million followers online. But like, it's come to the point where you can have millions and millions of followers and be completely unknown to a bunch of people. So I guess that's totally fair. But I don't know, it's just like I was watching a lot of his content and content about him, and I went to rewatch some old videos, and I was watching, there's this, and he even shouted out in, I think, the video where he transformed himself into a Bratz doll, he shouted out how they're like the doll customizing community. He gave a shout out to a creator that recreated this exact same look as a doll. And the doll customizing community is also something that I really enjoy. Also like drag, like I'm not too invested into it, but I watch stuff. I have friends that are into it. My friend Fantasy Finder is actually like really into it, and she's getting really good at doll customizing. And also I'll leave a link to her channel in the card, because she really is really good at doll customizing and I admire it like you wouldn't believe. Like, it takes so many skills to be able to take a doll and like make clothes for it and wash off the face and make a new face and all these like body modifications sometimes. And I don't know, it's just like, it's a really interesting art form that I admire greatly. And yeah, it just felt like this video was inspired by a bunch of things. Like, I'm into drag and I like watching people do drag, I guess, and I'm into doll customizers, and a doll customizer that I enjoy did a doll for this look, so I thought like, why not just pay tribute to all these different things by just drawing it. And I also, because drag makeup is really complicated and I admire that a lot too, like it's another art form that's like, oh my god, how do people do this? But it's also something that I'm not really going to get a chance to actually do on myself or on anyone anytime soon, because having that much makeup is like really expensive and it's also really time consuming. So I thought, why not just paint it? So, and I've also like, I've very rarely, like I don't think I've ever really done a really intense makeup look on an illustration. Like there's a couple illustrations where I've done like eyeshadow and stuff, I guess, but like nothing like lip gloss, or not even lip gloss. Like I've colored lip color onto lips in illustrations before, and I usually try to add like a hint of pink like blusher and stuff like that, but I always try to keep it fairly natural, barring the couple times I've done eyeshadow. And you could argue that every single one of my illustrations is like wearing eyeliner and mascara, because I tend to like accentuate that part, but I also think that's more of a stylistic preference rather than like I'm actively trying to draw makeup on this character. So yeah, I thought like, why not play around with some makeup in Photoshop on an illustration that I drew from scratch. Can I just say that, first of all, it was really hard to find a reference for how the beads were laid out on James's dress. Like, I think this is the closest approximation, but I know that this isn't accurate, because like there was a lot of beading done and this actually isn't that much beading. But then secondly, it was really tedious to draw all those beads and then colouring all those beads, and you're gonna see pretty soon how I like colour them and make them all sparkly and stuff, because as it stands right now, they're kind of just little grey blobs and they're like significantly darker than the dress, when in reality they're supposed to be like brighter. But the thing about making things like glittery and shiny is like you need it to be contrastful for it to actually seem like it's bright. So I decided to make the base color of all of the earrings and the beading on the dress to be like a lot darker than I would have imagined doing it, because that way when I make the pure, like the sparkly bits pure white, then it actually seemed like it's glittering and stuff. But even then it didn't really come together until I did like a, see here I am, I'm just stamping it with like a textured brush in white, so you get to see bits of the actual dark bit showing through, and then you also get to see the like little dotty bits of white, but it doesn't really look that sparkly to me. I don't know if you guys see it a little bit different, but then it really comes together when I just on a whim decided to try to use a color dodge layer with some pink and some blue, and you'll see why I chose pink and blue when I get to the background. But yeah, for the rest of the coloring I actually didn't really put much effort into it. Like the dress in particular, I was kind of, you know, just try to make it look a little bit silky, try to make it look three-dimensional, but really I wasn't spending too much time to make this like the most painterly masterpiece in the universe. I just kind of wanted it to be more, you know, like a put together semi-completed painting, but also not 50 hours of work. I think like the beading itself was more time than I would have wanted to spend, and I find it like really hard when I'm drawing to try to, or not drawing so much, painting, to try to make things look pure white but then also make them look like three-dimensional, because when they're pure white you don't want to make your shadows too dark, because otherwise it won't continue looking white, and then if you make them grey it looks muddy, if you make them blue it makes the dress look all around blue, and it's just like, it's a mess trying to keep things white and keep things black when you're trying to make them look like they're in space, I think. The skin besides the face was kind of like also something I didn't really put much thought into. I ended up using just a 100% soft brush, like not 100%, 0% hardness soft brush, and here I was trying to like implement this sort of like makeup contouring and highlighting it, and that line that you can see going down from like the eyebrow to the nostril, that's something I don't think I've ever like done in shading like in a normal lighting scheme before, but I decided to try to implement here because I know that James Charles contours his nose like that. He wants to get that sister snatched schnoz or something like that, pardon the pronunciation or whatever. The highlighting bit was the most entertaining, because he got like, drag queens really like to build up the drama and to make it really contrasty and stuff like that, so like I went super hardcore on the highlight, super extra. If I could have turned it glittery I would have. And here we're starting on the makeup. James Charles was so helpful that he had a tutorial up on how to do this, even though I didn't follow it in the slightest. I did it like completely opposite of what he was doing, laying down the white first and then mid-tone. Well, I guess the mid-tone and then darker shadowy bit went fine, and then blending, like I'm totally a makeup guru, guys. Completely follow my instructions for this tutorial of just like slapping colors onto it and blending. But yeah, I think it turned out like a really interesting eye look. Like I don't think I would have ever worn it myself, especially with like that dramatically white inner corner, but I don't know, I feel like it was a really interesting endeavor to try to, because I exaggerate when I paint anyway. I make the lashes longer than they could be, I like push highlight and contrast and like inner corner, and it seems like every single thing I draw has eyeliner, which I think I already mentioned, but I don't know, it was really interesting to try to do it like this. The lips were a little bit of a, because he wore a darker nude color, but it still has some like peachy pink undertones to it, and I don't know, I just tried to like put some stuff. I was also wondering if I should like make it as if his teeth are showing or if his mouth is just open, so I think I decided on just having his mouth be open, but it's kind of like a grey zone, so don't look inside his mouth too deep. It's not like you're gonna drown in it or anything. And then I ended up choosing a different, more red color for the whites of his eye, but I ended up blending it also with the white quote-unquote eyeshadow color as well. And the highlights, I typically only do highlights in the eye, like the sides of it, but this time I did it in the middle because in one of the reference photos I did, he was getting photographed by like a professional photographer and they had the lights on the inside. And here we're working on the background. But oh, real quick, I also did some little specular little dots of white on his cheek highlights, his face highlights, to like try to mimic that blinding highlighter that these makeup gurus are known for. And then my inspiration behind the background is actually based on one of the makeup looks that he did when he was announcing his makeup palette, where he has like white paint on most of his face, but then there's like dramatic rainbow eyeshadow look. So I wanted to get like a dramatic rainbow thing, like it's like swirling rainbow paint dripping down on a wall, because I also didn't want it to be entirely rainbow thing, so I figured like a half white half rainbow would work. And I think originally I had imagined it to be like backwards, for the top bit to be the white bit and then the bottom half to be the like paint, so it's like a rainbow wall with like white coming down onto it rather than a white wall with rainbow coming down onto it, because I wanted to have contrast for the dress, because the dress is white and white on a white background kind of gets lost, but in the end it ended up going like this. And I framed it with the drips itself, like that orange drip that you can see in the little navigator preview thing, that kind of frames the dress a little bit more. And then on the other side we have the sister fan, because I figured if I did the rainbow thing with the fan, or it might have been X, I don't know what was going through my head, why originally I intended it to do it one way and now it's another one, but I figured like if the fan kind of counterbalances the dramatic of the rainbow, because you have like something dark on the bottom, which is the fan, and then you have something like dark and contrasty at the top, which is the rainbow splatter. But yeah, in general that was sort of my thought process. I tried to make it James Charles, and I tried to make it look like it's actually paint on top of a wall by adding a little bit of a shadow. But yeah, at this point it was just a lot of like messing around trying to get it to like blend properly together. And I think pretty soon, I might have already done it, I don't think I already did it, where I did the color dodge on the earrings and the sparkly bits to make them even more sparkly. I don't think I did it yet. Let's hope I haven't. Did I? No, there I'm doing it. See, that's the little biggie bigs with the color dodge things. Now I'm making things actually sparkle, which I'm really happy about. I did pink because on the left side is the like red, yellow sort of side of the rainbow, and then the other side is blue. And yeah, so this is my finished illustration of James Charles in his Dragcon getup. And yeah, I didn't really have a reason for drawing this, just felt like it. But I hope you enjoyed. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, let me know what you think, and I'll see you all next week.